guys, so today I have swatches of the I Love Nail Polish Spring Collection. There are 13 polishes in this collection. There are 7 that's the technical spring collection, and then the other 6 are the spring jellies, which are like a jelly base with a scattered holographic shimmer that runs throughout them. I have both collections, which is technically 1 but kind of 2, for you today. These are available right now. I will link the website down below, and I will get into the swatches. So the first polish is called Apricot Cream, and this is a lighter nude color with a gold shimmer. So here's one coat. This one is pretty sheer on the first coat. It is definitely going to take 2, most likely 3 to build up. Formula feels good though. It's not too thick or too thin. So here's 2 coats. This one is still pretty sheer in the second coat. I can see my nail line, but the coverage is even. There don't seem to be streaks or darker spots compared to others. It's really even coverage, just sheer. And that shimmer does stand out really nicely as well. So here's 3 coats. So this one is still a little bit sheer on the third coat. I can still see my nail line pretty well. I mean, it's not obvious, but it's definitely there. But it isn't even coverage, which kind of makes up for it being a little bit sheer because it's not streaky at all. So there is 3 coats of Apricot Cream. The next polish is called Daisy Jane, and this is a very light kind of dusty pink with a more subtle, more scattered holographic to it. So here's 1 coat. This one is also a bit sheer on the first coat, so it is probably going to take 2 or 3. Great formula though, very smooth. And that holographic stands out, I think, almost better on the nail than it looks in the bottle. So here's 2 coats. This one is actually starting to cover pretty well on the second coat. I can still see my nail line a little bit, so I'm going to do a third, but I'm surprised at how much it's building up. I have like this blood blister, I don't know if you've noticed it the last few videos, on the side of this nail right here. It's really dark. I'm actually surprised that this covered that up in 2 coats. So here's 3 coats. This one does cover completely in 3 coats. I can't see any nail line at all. And I like the holographic on this on the nail much better than I liked it in the bottle. It looked a lot more subtle than it is. So there is 3 coats of Daisy Jane. The next polish is called Mayfield, and this is a clear-based multi-chrome flaky topper. I see shades of green, gold, blue, and pink in here. It almost looks like a couple different shades of blue that shift. And I am layering this one over OPI's Alpine Snow. So here's 1 coat. So this performs pretty much like all of the other multi-chrome flakies from I Love Nail Polish. They have quite a few. You can get some larger chunks of flakies out here, but you do, if you like work it too much, they break up into smaller pieces. But they shouldn't be too difficult to remove. They won't, I should say, you won't have to scrub them off, but they might get all over, like break up and you'll have little particles stuck to your skin. But you won't have to do any scrubbing to remove them at all. They're not like a glitter. So there is 1 coat of Mayfield. The next polish is called Deja Vu, and this is a kind of medium purpley blue linear holographic. So here's 1 coat. So this one is a bit sheer on the first coat, but shades like this tend to build up really well, like unexpectedly well. So I'm thinking it might only need 2, but I guess we'll see. Great formula on this one too, nearly perfect. So here's 2 coats. This one covers, I'd say, almost completely on 2. I think a lot of people could get away with this on 2. I just feel like it can get deeper though, so I'm going to do a 3rd coat. Again, fantastic formula on this one. And with all holographics, the holographic will stand out a lot better once it's completely dry, and if you put a top coat over it, then it will dull again until the top coat dries, and then it should come back to normal. So here's 3 coats. So this does seem to get a little bit darker on the 3rd coat, but I don't know if it's enough to need a 3rd coat. I guess it depends on your preference, but I think you could probably be fine with 2 coats. So there is 3 coats of Deja Vu. The next polish is called Skyscraper, and this is kind of a medium denim blue holographic. This also has some holographic micro glitter in it, so it has a little bit of a different effect than the last one, which I actually thought the colors were pretty close to each other until I stuck them together. And then you can see that Skyscraper definitely leans more blue and has a very different effect with that glitter. So here's 1 coat. This one is also pretty sheer on the first coat. Fantastic formula on this. And I'm sorry if the lighting keeps changing. My camera's been kind of messed up, and the settings are supposed to be locked in, but yet they keep changing on me every time I look up. So here's 2 coats. And I can still see my nail line a bit with this one, so I'm going to do a 3rd. And this is so sparkly. It won't be hard to remove at all either. Those little holographic particles that are in there are small enough that it should come off just fine. So here's 3 coats. This one does cover completely in 3, and I do feel like it deepens the color just a little bit. What I like about these holographics that have those little particles in them as well is they kind of have a scattered and a linear effect at the same time. So there is 3 coats of Skyscraper. The next polish is called Rolling Hills, and this is kind of like a sea green holographic with a ton of silver flakies. So here's 1 coat. This one covers it okay on the first coat. I can see where it could be considered a little sheer, but with flakies like this, those build up very, very fast. Great formula on this as well. So here's 2 coats. This one covers completely in 2. You might end up with some bald spots depending on your application, but I don't think that's very likely. This will remove just like a regular polish. It won't take any scrubbing at all, but those silver flakies might stick to the skin a little bit because those can tend to get messy. So there is 2 coats of Rolling Hills. And the last of the 7 polishes in the spring collection, this is Bulletproof Symphony. This is a deep kind of navy blue holographic with a ton of silver flakies. So here's 1 coat. This one, like the last one, covers pretty well on the first coat. Comes off a little bit sheer, but those silver flakies do build up really fast. And the formula is fantastic on this one. So here's 2 coats. So this one is completely opaque in 2. Like I said, those silver flakies tend to build up really nicely. And like the last one, this will remove fairly easy, but you might get silver flakies on the skin around your nails because those do tend to stick to everything. So there is 2 coats of Bulletproof Symphony. So now you're starting the Spring 2016 Jellies collection. This is kind of a separate 6-piece collection. This first one is called Sandy Baby, and this is a light pinky nude with a scattered holographic. It's almost like little, like the picture polish scattered holographics have like what look like little shredded holographic flakes. That's what these look like too. So here's 1 coat. So this one is pretty sheer on the first coat. It is a lighter color. The formula is fantastic though, extremely easy to control. So here is 2 coats. This is starting to build up a little bit, but not a ton. I'm on 2 coats and my nail line is still pretty visible. I think this one's going to end up being a little bit more sheer because I don't think it's going to cover completely in 3. So here's 3 coats. And this one does cover pretty well on the 3rd coat, but you can very clearly still see my nail line. Which doesn't bother me as much when the coverage is even. If there's streaks and you can see my nail line after 3 coats, then it's an issue. But when the coverage is even and you can see my nail line, it doesn't bother me. But I know that that probably is a deal breaker for a lot of people. So there is 3 coats of Sandy Baby. The next polish is Sweet Pea, and this is kind of a dusty rose colored jelly with those little silver holographic flaky looking things. Here it is next to Sandy Baby, so you can see the difference. So here's 1 coat. This is another lighter color, so it's also pretty sheer on the first coat. The formula on this one is fantastic. So here's 2 coats. So this one again is starting to build up like the last one did in 2 coats. I do feel like it covers a little bit better than the last one in 2, but my nail line's still pretty visible, so I'm not really sure that this one's going to be covered completely in 3. So here's 3 coats. And this one almost covers completely in 3, but I can still see a decent amount of my nail line. It's not like glaring, but it's there. And even though I always recommend a top coat, these have dried pretty shiny so far. So there is 3 coats of Sweet Pea. The next polish is Jello Shot, and this is a pinky red jelly with that scattered holographic little flaky effect. So here's 1 coat. This one is a bit sheer on the first coat. I think they're probably all going to be because they are technically jellies. Great formula on this one as well though. So here's 2 coats. So the color really builds up on this one on the 2nd coat. It's still a little bit sheer though, so I'm going to do a 3rd. And even though I think these all have the same amount of that holographic sparkle, it really stands out a ton more in these darker, more saturated colors. So here's 3 coats. So 3 coats does cover completely. I don't feel like it deepens the color that much, like enough to really point it out. A little bit, but not a ton. Like I said, these dry super shiny because they are jellies. And the holographic sparkle should not be difficult to remove. So there is 3 coats of Jello Shot. So the next polish is called Valerie, and this is kind of a berry wine-ish colored jelly with that same holographic sparkle. So here's 1 coat. Like the others, this one is sheer on the first coat, but the holographic should stand out really well on this one because it is a darker color. So here's 2 coats. The color starts to build up really well on this one, and 2 coats, my nail line's still pretty visible, so I'm going to do a 3rd. And I don't think I mentioned this on the first coat, but this has the same formula as the other jellies so far. Really, really easy to apply. So here's 3 coats. And this one does cover completely in 3. I could still see my nail line, like I could make it out pretty well, but I think if you're not picky, you probably would be fine with 2. You really did have to look for it. But I do think I like the color a lot better with 3. So there is 3 coats of Valerie. The next polish is called BFFs, and this is a darker purple jelly with those holographic silver flakes. So here's 1 coat. This one is also a bit sheer on the first coat. Great formula. The spring jellies half of this collection has been really consistent in the formula. So here's 2 coats. This one is still a little bit sheer on the second coat, and I do think it's going to get considerably darker with the third. Again, these do dry pretty shiny, shouldn't be difficult to remove. So here's 3 coats. So this does cover completely in 3, and it does get darker. It doesn't get as much darker as I thought it was going to, though. And I don't know if I've mentioned this, but those flakies that are in there, I said that they wouldn't be hard to remove. They lay flat, too, so the polish will feel smooth even without a top coat. So there is 3 coats of BFFs. And the last polish is Nightlight, and this is a deep blue jelly with those holographic silver flakes. So here's 1 coat. This is a jelly just like the others, so it's a bit sheer on the first coat. Same formula as all the other ones too. They've been pretty much identical, all of them, in formula. So here's 2 coats. And this one is starting to build up really nicely on the second coat as well, but it's still going to need a third. And I really, really like these spring jellies, especially the darker shades. So here's 3 coats. So 3 coats deepens the color quite a bit on this one. It really gives it like a night sky kind of effect. I like this a lot. So there is 3 coats of Nightlight. So I would have picked BFFs as my favorite, but the more I look at it, like the pictures on my nail, the more I think it kind of looks a lot like Zoya's Aurora. It's not exactly Aurora. I wouldn't say it's a complete dupe, but it just kind of looks a lot like it to me. So the other one that I really liked was Jello Shot. And I liked this because it was the first one that was dark in the Spring Jellies collection that was dark enough for the holographic to really, really, really stand out. The 2 before it were a little bit lighter and more nude. And they're nice for like a subtle holographic, but I really want I want to see it all. So this was the first one that really showed that well, and I did like it better than the purple and the darker blue, so this one is my favorite. So that is the I Love Nail Polish Spring Collection for 2016. Again, those are available right now. I will link the website down below. Hope you guys enjoyed this one, and I will talk to you later. Bye.